only take 3,000 megawatts. I think there was a story during the rounds last week that they could only take 50% of our power outputs. Why is that? Because they lack capacity, they lack the right infrastructure to do that. If we have cost-reflective tariffs, that will provide funding for these discos to expand their capacity, to pay GenCos. That is the fundamental issue which needs to be resolved. I know it would have inflationary impacts. It would have, the consumers will feel some short-term pain. But in the long term, it will be twofold, 20-fold benefits. So we need...
I'm just thinking of this news on Mambila and what have you as good news on one side.
Yes.
But the flip side is still that no one has stepped forward with this type of big money to say we're investing it in the downstream side.
That's the issue. We need, because of, like I said, lack of transparency, lack of market-determined rates for these investors to put their money in.
I'm not sure we've been able to resolve. Which comes first, the egg or the chicken? Is it the tariff that should go up first before we have sustainable and decent power that is stable? Which one comes first? Because we keep throwing this ball front and back.
I think tariffs need to go up. If our tariffs are very low compared to our neighbors, our tariffs are really low, and we need higher tariffs to incentivize all these investors.
Nigerians don't want to pay for what they don't consume.
No pain, no gain. That's the thing.
No pain, no gain. So you think we should have a higher tariff first?
Yes.
Then maybe that will provide an incentive for the discos to make electricity stable.
Yes.
That's your postulation.
That's right.
Okay. Now let's move on to the industries, manufacturing, those who are, because at the end of it all, this all boils down to the price of bread and everything that we consume and inflation that we see there. So energy is a major cost in our inflation matrix.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I think there are several components to our prices of goods. There are various constraints. But I think power, if we get the power right, I think prices can, my estimation is about 25 to 30%. If manufacturers have consistent power, they wouldn't need to rely on alternative sources of energy. They will need to rely on off-grid power, which is more expensive. On-grid power is the cheapest option. So if we get this power right, it would go a long way to boosting outputs. And we need to shift from the primary sector into secondary sector and tertiary sector. We're too focused on all agriculture. We need to put more emphasis on manufacturing and services. And if that is done, we can see double-digit growth figures, and it will go a long way to boosting outputs.
What else is in the good news? I love the good news and the bad news. It looks like we have more good news this morning. Thank you, folks, for giving us more good news than the bad news. And it's going to be a public holiday tomorrow. So some of our viewers who are watching will need some good news as they move around. Okay, so what's good news? The Naira appreciation.
Yes, indeed. I think the CBN injected 250 million this week, and that was a long way to strengthen the currency. I think people are going for Hajj. The demand for currency, for Forex has increased, but I think by the CBN injecting that has suppressed that demand, and one of stable footing. But by nature, the currency market is volatile, so as long as we're in a decent range, 360 to 370, we're fine. So even if it goes, I don't be surprised if in 2 weeks it depreciates again. It's just the nature of the currency market. So.
Do you think the news, the boosting of gas supply to the power plant is one good news in the electricity conversation?
It is. And I'll go back to, I think, if I talk about this hydropower project, I think it's good, but this is long-term investment. We wouldn't see the impact to six years. What we can do now is take advantage of our comparative advantage, which is gas. We have so much gas. We have the highest gas reserves and gas in the world. So why can't we grab onto our low-hanging fruits and use gas? My opinion would be, I think there needs to be a synergy between the petroleum ministry and the power ministry, so that I think they need to review the gas physical regime so as to incentivize these firms to invest in gas production. And that is the quicker option and the cheaper option to do. If we do that, gas projects will be online and our outputs would increase significantly.
If we have electricity, yes, you think consumer, if you fix about 20–30% of that cost input, as far as the headline inflation is concerned, you think that will make any dent?
It will make a dent if inflation declined marginally to 16.05% from July 2016. And like I said earlier, I think the cost component of inadequate electricity is 30%. I think if we get that power right, we can reduce our costs by as much as 30%. And that will benefit everybody, consumers, manufacturers, everybody.
I'm interested in that, and I look forward to when that would happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, you're going on holiday. With the rest of your team at Financial Derivative, Adim Okwesa. Let's get back to what's in the news this morning. The scandal of Sinopec, the Chinese oil company, has a subsidiary in Geneva called ADAX. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission says investigations at early stage and no action imminent, as the Department of Justice, or what we call the DOJ in the U.S., is working with the U.S. SEC to review allegations that this China's state oil corporation paid yet to be identified, yet to be named Nigerian government officials about $100 million in bribes between 2014 and 2015. According to agency reports, this bribery relates to the resolution of a dispute between Sinopec and the Nigerian government. By that we mean the NNPC, way back a few years ago, over drilling of oil in Nigeria by ADAX, and the cost of capital costs involved, the tax breaks that this oil company enjoyed, and royalty sharing with the NNPC. Media report says about $100 million was paid in bribes to settle this matter or to resolve it. And now that is being pushed out as allegations, and there are petitions relating to that, but the US SEC says investigation is still at early stage. Let's come back after the break. Then this good story in the insurance market is where we're going next.